All right, yeah. Sick version of the Super Show. Here we go.
Let's do it.
From DynastyLeagueFootball.com and that DLF family, a podcast. That's Tommy B. I'm the SFD. This is the Super Flex Super Show. So here we go live. Tommy, what do you want to talk about?
Johnny's back.
Yes.
It's good to record with you again, but I guess we're not recording.
Likewise.
We're live today, aren't we?
Oh yeah. I mean, little of both. Like this will still go out into the world. So it just has to get in line because we've got like 3 in the hopper right now.
We should we should flood the zone soon because the NFL season is finally over. What a dud of a playoffs. I'm sorry, like my team was in the playoffs, yours was in the playoffs. Maybe it's because they lost, but like enthusiasm was at an all-time low at the FF Tommy B household. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it felt like a legitimately subpar matchup, you know? Like congratulations to Seattle, but man, like that was a pretty flawed team, but like they just kind of ran into like what else am I supposed to say here? You know, like super lucky, just like everything kind of fell into place for the Patriots. It's a good roster, very well coached, but man, like we're just so used to, you know, Patriots dynasty, Chiefs dynasty, you know, mix in that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase Bengals team, and like beyond that, it's like the AFC is just like coming with juggernauts, and then all of a sudden it's just like they just kind of like limped in a little bit, and I don't know. That matchup just didn't do anything for me.
You know what it reminded me of, John, is like when you're in like 2015 or whatever, when you're still playing in like ESPN redraft leagues or whatever, and you've got like a 5 or 6 seed and you limp into the playoffs, you don't have a good quarterback on your super flex team, right?
Yeah.
And you're still setting like kickers and defenses and they carry you through the playoffs. It's like,
right.
I guess I'm the champion. I'm the best. It says I'm the best.
Yeah. Especially when like the 1 seed just like it just gets decimated by injuries and there's just like nothing they can do. And you're just like, well, I mean, yeah, I only scored like 75 points, but it was enough to beat you. So
yeah. And we're going to get into an AMA because like we put out the signal and the Super Friends gave us a bunch of good questions, but I think you and I maybe are going to have to disagree for a second if you're okay with that, John.
Yeah.
Drake May. I think there's a lot of question with A, where is he valued? And B, is that the proper valuation of Drake May? Did we maybe jump the gun on where he sits in the dynasty hierarchy? I'm just going to ask you, like, where do you have Drake May and why?
I've got him. I'm trying to remember what tier I put him in. I think I may have acquiesced on that one and went ahead and put him in the elite tiers. You know, like Josh Allen tier 1 by himself. Like that's where I had Pat Mahomes for the longest time. That's where I had Aaron Rodgers for the longest time. Like he's just an unfair advantage. So, but then that next tier is like kind of big still. It's Joe Burrow and it's Lamar Jackson. Like that one, like I'm really going out on a limb here. Like this coaching change had better work the way I think it will. But you know, like Jaden Daniels is still there for me. Pat Mahomes is still there for me. A lot of people are going to have a tough time with that one, but he's elite. I'm just telling you now. I think I've got Drake May in that tier, but I've got him at the bottom of that tier. And people are going to have a tough time with that for sure. Like we're already seeing ADP where he's kind of he's going, you know, 2nd or 3rd overall. And like Josh Allen, maybe Lamar Jackson are the only guys that right now they're taking ahead of Drake May. And I just, I think it's way too early to go that high.
Yeah.
But I've got him in that tier, so I don't know.
Can I just, an aside, can I present my screen for a second? I want to show you something.
Okay.
Let's see. Here, let's just show my entire screen. There we go. I just want to show you how absurd Josh Allen is. Can you see my screen, man?
Yeah.
So these are top 6 finishes on any given week since 2013. So it's just like an arbitrary start date. You'll see players like Tom Brady on this list. And gosh, I thought he had more top 6, 12, 24 finishes. Yeah, he did. But this is like starting the tally in 2013. But since that date, Josh Allen has 61 top 6 finishes on a week, which is just like essentially lapping the field of low-end QB1s. He is so unbelievably good that you're exactly right, man. He's a cheat code. And to put anyone in a tier with Josh Allen, it's kind of unfair when you're talking about like the absolute ceiling of the position, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like it's the consistency for me. Like just like you said, look at all those top 12s, top 24s. Like nobody else is doing it as consistently. Like there are guys out there who are absolutely capable of putting together that type of season. And for the longest time, I had him and Pat Mahomes in that tier because Mahomes was doing it too. But just the last, 2.5 years, basically, it's just been he's really kind of come back down to earth. And at this point, I just can't count on him the way you can count on Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm. And there's going to be time to get into all these stats and graphs and charts that I'm building right now. But I switched the filter, John. Can you see that it's at weekly top 24 finishes now?
Yeah.
Dude, what is the overwhelming evidence if you're chasing any sort of like consistency or floor? You look at the top names since 2013 and top 24 finishes, and we've got Matt Stafford, Russ Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, stupid Derek Carr, Patrick Mahomes. Pocket passers, right? With just a little bit of mobility, enough to like give them a point or two here or there. But pocket passers, man, they deliver the repeatable floor, don't they?
Right. Yeah. That's kind of always been the thing for me. Like, I know that, and it kind of depends on the scoring, but yeah, like there's always been that cheat code that they talk about, the Konami code with the rushing quarterbacks. And it's just, like at the end of the day, man, like I just need the consistency, like the floor is really just kind of what we're looking for at the quarterback position, because the ceiling is there for all of them, kind of regardless of how they're getting there, right? Like, and it seems like your research is kind of showing that as well.
It really is. There's a lot of interesting takeaways, but where I disagree with you, man, I think Drake May is providing that consistency. I think they just had a bad game. Like, on the biggest stage, had a bad game.
Right.
In the first half of games, like when you're setting the game plan, right? The scripted plays, sort of the even playing field snaps. Drake May was a 74% passer this year for like 2,500 yards. So he was the best in those. He also had the 7th most dropbacks of any quarterback in either half, the 2nd most touchdowns in the first half, the most scrambles, the 2nd most points per opportunity. I think he showed that the floor is there and that the ceiling is also like tantalizingly close. And we're not at a point with Drake May where we have to make the Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes type decisions, the 2nd and 3rd contract guys. We can still bolster the ranks around Drake May. And we can turn him into sort of what CJ Stroud was promised to be as a passer. I know that like it doesn't always shake out that way, but there's enough cap room. There's enough draft flexibility. Like I think this is a team that is very much on the rise and will still continue to put weapons around Drake May. And even if he plays a tougher schedule, even if he regresses a little bit, the foundation is already laid to where I still have Drake May as my quarterback 1B overall. Like just behind Josh Allen, the superhero.
Wow,
that's how
same tier
I am.
You'd put him in the same tier?
Yeah, and not much distance between them either. I know.
Oh,
and
man,
I don't do that, dude.
I know.
I know,
and
never do
this. There's a reason that you normally don't do this. Like, I mean, we could have said the same things about Jaden Daniels last year. That was kind of the theme, you know?
He was fool's gold, though. He was doing things on a high efficiency rate, and he was doing things with his legs. Those two can absolutely provide ceiling in very good years, but that's not the floor that we're looking for, is it? Drake May has a lot of the floor capacities that it is that we're looking for in the underlying metrics. Tell me why I'm wrong, and tell me how this is going to bite me in the ass in 2026.
Okay, so there's kind of a lot to this, right? Like, yeah, they have the opportunity to add some weapons. Will they though? I mean, that's never been a thing for the Patriots necessarily. Like, it also, you know, who's available, who upgrades Stephon Diggs, who
AJ
you
Brown,
who you actually have access to, you know.
yeah,
Maybe AJ Brown. That's just, again, like, that's just not something that the Patriots have typically done. Like, this has been, you know, kind of regardless of the regime, this has kind of been what the wide receiver group looks like, kind of regardless of the quarterback. And so, and you know, you're as much as I love Mike Vrabel, like, this is still a guy who came from the Patriot way, from the Belichick system. So you've still got Josh McDaniels there, who, you know, who obviously has been perfectly happy with that type of wide receiver room. So, like, as far as them upgrading his targets, I don't trust them to actually do it. That's kind of number one. Number two, there was quite a bit of rushing upside that when it came to Drake May's production. I think that, and so, you know, if that's a knock, if that, you know, if the floor has to include some rushing, I mean, there's some obvious regression for you right there, especially, you know, with a little bit more consistent running game throughout the season. So, like, it was great towards the end of the season, but, you know, you get some more consistency. The goal is going to be to keep him in the pocket. It has to be. Like, this happened with Josh Allen. This happened, like, everybody but Lamar Jackson. Like, the goal has always been, like, all right, is, you know, your first couple of years, go ahead and run, do like the things that are just kind of like, that just kind of come naturally to you, follow the path of least resistance. But at some point, we need you to become an NFL quarterback when it comes to the intellectual side, and it means standing in the pocket and throwing, so that we're not putting you in danger of getting injured. So, you know, at some point, that's got to be part of the conversation. And honestly, when you extend your season all the way into, you know, early to mid-February, that's the time that you have to say, all right, like, we've got a shorter off season here, and we're going to be right back to work. And so, like, this is the time to work on how do we keep him safe and healthy. And above all else, like, I know that this is narrative street, but it just happens every single year. The teams that get to the Super Bowl just end up with a downturn the following season. And like, that's the whole thing to me. Like, I'm not talking over the course of his career. I'm just talking about the fact that, you know, you're likely to get some negative regression from Drake May for a variety of reasons in 2026. And that value is just going to drop to a point where, you know, like, we're the same discount that we're getting right now on Jaden Daniels, you're going to get that on Drake May too. And so, you know, I value him accordingly, because it's going to put you in a position to, you know, to pass on him at the height of his value and then catch him on the downswing.
The thing that went unsaid there that is really important to me is his avoided sack rate. Drake May has regressed this year at avoiding sacks. And so I think what needs to happen is an alpha wide receiver addition to give him a more solid first read, so that his choices are throw to the alpha, throw to the outlet, or run, to make it a lot more binary for him. I think they're going to do that. And so we have several check marks along the NPSS to say, like, is this happening, right? Like, are we seeing them catering to what he does well and able to blend and hide what he's not doing well? So it's a fascinating discussion. I think that's really where Superflex startups begin, is the 102. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I kind of think so. Yeah. And I mean, it's less about quarterback. It's like all of a sudden wide receiver it gets into the conversation, and you know what? I'm not totally opposed to it. Like
Yeah.
if we're talking Drake May versus, like you tell me that that I can trade back and still get the guys that I think are actually like truly elite and are going to stay there. If we're trying to decide between Drake May and Puka Nakua, I mean, I'm not totally out on like, this is such a weird thing because we've been in this anti wide receiver spot for so long. But, supply finally dropped significantly below uh, uh, below demand. There you go.
Yeah.
And like now it's to a point where I think it's a viable strategy to be considering wide receivers there, and let the quarterbacks fall a little bit.
ADP would agree with you, John. I did a
Yeah.
study, I did a solo episode just a little while ago
Mhm.
where I was looking at real startup ADP, the early reveal in January, February. And that's what's happening, man. So it's Josh Allen, it's Drake May, 101,
Mhm.
102, pretty much with a bullet. And then wide receivers have pushed up the ranks. Tight ends, both Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, have pushed up the ranks into the first round.
Yep.
And it's pushed down quarterbacks. It's really, really easy to get QB3 relative to the previous 5 years, all the way down to QB12. So there's that gap, that 9-pick gap amongst the QB ranks that are so much more accessible, like all the way down to like pick 25, 30, somewhere around there, where you can get a QB1. Whereas like 2 years ago, if you didn't have like the 110, good luck getting the QB8.
Right. I know. Yeah. Yeah, it's kinda to a point now where, in the first 3 rounds where it was typically, make sure you're getting at least 2 quarterbacks. Now it's kinda like, make sure you get a wide receiver somewhere in there because they dry up a little too quick. And yeah, the quarterback position is so confusing to people right now that, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is gonna be there probably in the 3rd round at this point.
Yeah, he's QB12.
Yeah.
The other thing that I found that was really interesting was wide receiver 36 through like 45 was 20, 30, 40 picks below traditional ADP expectations. And
Mhm.
so I was thinking, man, let's not worry about the top 6 wide receivers. They can be awesome. Like we can fully admit that. Um, let's go ahead and trade back in the first round. If you have an early startup pick that's not 101, 102,
Yeah.
let's get 2 of those quarterbacks, right? And get some extra capital. Let's try to layer in some of those stud running backs. If you can if you can find value in getting into like Bowers or McBride at some point in the
Mhm.
first or second rounds, somewhere around the turn there, like coordinate there. And then once you start to see the wide receiver twos go, start to target that wide receiver 3 tier because you're going to have like a 20 or 30 pick range where you're going to capture extra value, right? And so I was shooting for names, and the 3 I identified was Ricky Pearsall, someone who scored really high in the NB10 early in the season before he got hurt. Terry McLaurin, someone who scored really well in the NB10 score late in the season because he got hurt, and Devontae Adams, who's just going to apparently run it back with
Mhm.
the LA Rams, saying like, I think I can mostly hold serve there. And then I can scaffold with these depressed rookie picks, right? Because we're seeing, again, 10, 15, 20 picks later are these rookie draft picks than they traditionally are found in startups. And so get 1 or 2 of these wide receivers, and then next year get another stud wide receiver, right? Build today at the wide receiver position with Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin, Ricky Pearsall, and then build for tomorrow using a rookie pick this year and a rookie pick next year. I don't think that's
Hmm.
a bad way to go to move counter to this infatuation with the top 6 or 8 wide receivers, which last year, if you had done that, you probably would have done pretty well.
Yeah. So do we need to expand the our roster build when it comes to wide receivers then?
Man, I've been thinking about that, and I think we probably need to do something with roster construction. You know what we probably should do though, John, is get to some of these comments and questions because
Sure.
there's really good ones, and we went right off the rails, didn't we?
Right.
Let me
Let's
throw
do
off a
it.
couple of these. So Raymond says, "Love you guys. Good to hear you live. It's great to see you, Raymond. Thanks for being in the conversation."
Yeah, thanks, brother.
Um, yeah, for sure, man. Tony's asking, says, "I'm thinking of pivoting from Travis Hunter to MHJ. Why does that feel lateral to me? Is this a lateral move?"
No, that's an upgrade.
Yep. How
That's
so?
an upgrade. You're giving up a cornerback for a wide receiver.
Good start.
Yeah, that's always good, unless we're playing IDP. But I don't. The amount of time that Travis Hunter is going to spend on offense, again, like their big need for him at this point is on defense. And like they desperately need the help on defense. They don't need the help on offense. Like with the emergence of Parker Washington, with a bounce back from Brian Thomas Jr., you just gave a big contract to Jacoby Myers. Like that depth chart is pretty stocked. And there's the fact that you've got a guy who can start for you on defense. I mean, I think they're just going to commit him to that side of the ball. Like I don't even have to sing the praises of Marvin Harrison Jr. here. Just like straight up, this is what I see for the future for Travis Hunter.
Yeah, and you talk about bad injury luck, right? So we're seeing Michael Wilson did really well because MHJ got hurt last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens on the Jacksonville Jaguars if they lose two of their top DBs again? Well, Travis Hunter's probably going to be scooting to that side of the ball a little bit more, right? He's going to be playing instead of 60% of the snaps, he's going to play 85% of the snaps on defense.
Mm-hmm.
That's fewer bites at the apple on offense, right? So you're opening yourself up not just to the injury variance of the player, but of the surrounding environments as well. And so I think that you gain an anticipated probably like 10+% snap share
Mm-hmm.
on that alone, even if they were lateral assets. If every single snap they had the same amount of efficiency and effectiveness, you're probably coming out ahead just on that factor alone.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I see, and you said this like tongue in cheek months ago, that MHJ is the best wide receiver on the planet because he was stifling Michael Wilson, wide receiver one.
Yeah.
I
Like
think
there's
that
some truth
like,
there, right? Like
there's a small kernel of truth to the fact that like he
not
has
best
been
on the planet, but like I mean, yeah, like people talk about like look at what Michael Wilson was able to do once MHJ was out of the way. It's like, okay, like finish that thought then. Like
yeah.
the answer is in the question, like what happened when MHJ was out. Yeah, there was opportunity for Michael Wilson, but there wasn't until then.
Yeah. And MHJ was used as a blunt force object the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Stand on the outside and win with the most difficult routes possible. He's been seasoned to a degree, like the cast iron is seasoned. It's ready to cook now. I'm actually buying MHJ. I'm really excited about Travis Hunter, the football player, because it's a cool experiment and I'm a Jaguars fan. I have 0 shares and I'm buying more and more MHJ. So I think this is a good move, Tony.
Yeah. I think that Michael Wilson is still a buy as well, by the way. Like I think that you get, regime change and you get a better quarterback situation. Like there should be a lot more meat on the bone just in general for both of them. So the issue is like in terms of arbitrage, like it's on MHJ at this point, even though he's still got a higher ADP. Like his production is going to be a lot closer to his ADP than Michael Wilson's probably is.
Probably. Yeah, both can be good, right?
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Tony follows up by saying that was crazy about Allen. I think he's referring to the charts that I showed. We're going to be getting more into that, this NPSS. Mm-hmm. I looked back to like see what it is we can expect from draft capital, from profiles, and how long that runway tends to be and where we find points and starts, right? Ultimately, the only things that matters are, where did you fall on a weekly level and how many of those weeks did you capture in your lineup? And so I think we can get a lot more detailed in that and dig into the numbers and see what types of quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends we should be hunting out, and what our expectations in the short and long term will be. It shines a really bright light when you see someone like Josh Allen doubling up the QB8 over the same time period, or like CMC with 99 top 6 RB finishes. Like, oh my God, what should we have paid for CMC if I told you in his rookie year, like, oh yeah, by the way, you're going to get 100 top 6 finishes out of this person.
Right. I know. Yeah. Like basically every time he's on the field, essentially. So yeah, like this is the thing. It's like, we talked about baby food a few episodes ago. Like there's a lot of baby food out there, and it starts with Josh Allen. Like you just can't afford to not have Josh Allen. In some way, to me, Pat Mahomes is right there too. He's going to be baby food too, but like, we're going to dig into that. And, like it gets to a point where this becomes just step by step, like it doesn't even have to be a thought experiment anymore. It's just like, here's the straight up roadmap to build this team, and like in a way that you cannot, like you can't miss.
This is why I love talking to you, John, is you made me see the baby food light when I was talking about a deal that I was working through.
You eat baby food now?
Yeah, all the time. I do make a lot of butternut squash soup. We have a soup question later that we can get into. The Superflex Super Show. No, we were talking about Josh Allen, and I was offering 3 firsts, and we were trying to figure out what the adder was. And you're like, you can't afford not to have this guy.
Yeah.
Like the numbers butts say this, the film people say this, logic says this. Go get Josh Allen until he proves that he is not that anymore, because he's an unfair advantage, right? He truly is his own like tier of player, and we constantly want to put players up in there, like I do with Drake May, and like Estantris is saying, like he agrees with you, John, that Drake May's in a large tier, not with Josh Allen, but also maybe agrees with me on some level, saying that Drake May should have more weapons, which is another plus for him going forward. It's one of those like both can be true,
Totally. I mean, here's what I would say about Drake May is there's absolutely no universe where they don't upgrade the offensive line. So like at the very least, you're going to get that. I'm not convinced that they're ever going to prioritize pass catchers, but they're at least going to get him better protection. So like, yeah, there's room for some improvement as well.
Do you mind if we move to the Discord? We've got a bunch of questions in here.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So Ominous says, Tommy, you don't like to draft with your picks. Normally with picks, you tier up into a known elite commodity with the depressed values. What are you doing with the picks? If it is trading into RBs, which RB types are you cutting to make room? When are we making these trades? A lot to chew on here. Some of these are just directly to me because I thought I was doing this solo, but I got my friend to join me, which is so great because I want to chew on this with you, man. Like, all right. So do you do the same thing that I like to do where you trade up, you trade into elite or known assets using your draft capital? Do you trade draft picks? Tell me about your relationship with draft picks.
I typically do. I typically trade them. It's a little bit of a lack of discipline, if I'm being honest, but I typically trade them a year out. So like, I don't have a ton of 2026 to even really think much about this, but yeah, I mean, I think that this is probably going to be this is going to be a class that the closer we get to the NFL draft, I think the more people are going to be down on it. So it kind of feels like now is the time, and that kind of is the move. The only thing I would say is I think that we've got some, and this is like top half of the rookie draft, basically. Like we know that we've got an elite running back coming in with Jeremiah Love. We know that we've got, what should be a borderline elite quarterback coming into a good situation with Francisco Mendoza. And then we know that we've got a handful of wide receivers coming in. And back to the wide receiver discussion, with it being so scarce, I do think that you want to take some shots where you can at possibly getting, an elite wide receiver before they're before they actually hit, kind of a Tet McMillan, Amika Ibuka type of move. But like after that, it feels like you're just drafting second rounders starting in the mid first, So it's like, if you can get first round value for that second round player, do it.
Well, second rounders this year are costing what third rounders have over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
That's where the discrepancy is the highest, is the mid to late second round in startup drafts right now. And so I'm actually trying to trade into that because everyone seems to hate that tier. And it doesn't even have to be good to deliver value if it's that cheap, right?
True.
It's what it is relative to the acquisition cost. And so I really like that tier, and I'm moving into it right now. I'm probably going to end up taking running backs there, or maybe a few tight end flyers and tight end premium leagues. That story doesn't have to be written yet because we're getting it at such a discount. What I want to do is, if there is no market for these draft picks and I have them, how can I create holes on my roster so that these picks become more important? You got into them, you have to use them apparently if you can't trade them away, if you can't package two of them with a player and tier up into a better player, right? Like those moves I think will be there throughout the NPSS, but if you truly get stuck, build holes on your team, make them more important than the market is dictating they should be, because we see very often Lad McConkey's at the 201 or T. Higgins at the 202. It's possible, right? Open yourself up to that possibility. We weren't very excited about the Garrett Wilson class. These things seem to be written in concrete, but they're not. We don't actually know what we think we know this time of year. We're playing a game about a game. And so I would try to step back and say, like, all right, the league clearly doesn't value what I have, right? Like I'm in it for whatever reason. I traded into this, or I just had these picks. How can I make them matter?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So the other part of the question was, what running backs are we cutting to make room? And when are we making these trades? I'm doing a trade tsunami on Sunday, John, where I'm going to make an offer to every single manager in every single league.
Yeah. Okay.
And I am going to try to do handcuffing season. I'm going to try to give every single manager an opportunity to have the handcuffs for their RB1, their RB2, their RB3, whatever. I think that's how I'm going to trim my rooms down, is try to make matches and build a little bit of scarcity at the position so that if I am stuck with these players, these draft picks, that I have room for them when draft season comes.
So talk through that with me. Like, how does that build scarcity?
Well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them the confidence that they have what they need, right? So a lot of the people that I play in leagues with, they've got, let's say, like CMC, Josh Jacobs, and Chase Brown, and then like not much else behind it, right? So that's their quote unquote set room. Well, let me give you all of your backups so that you're not looking on the waiver wire, you're not looking in the draft for more backups, to where I've already dealt you what you need to get you into the season, so that I have more access to these backup running backs, and so that I have met your need and pulled something out for my troubles. I now have an open position so that I can put a wide receiver that I've drafted onto my roster to carry him for the 4 months that I need to get that clarity of whether this guy is good or bad.
Okay. Like, I kind of like it intuitively, I guess. Where I was going with that is, it feels like the scarcity kind of comes from capturing entire backfields on various rosters. It's very interesting to me. I can tell you from firsthand experience that people still don't like to handcuff their running backs.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious what your conversion rate will look like here, but like it's very interesting.
This time of year, managers get more theoretical, and you want to sell into that because it tends to be like a temporary state of being for these people, right? Yeah. Like they get into this like deep slumber in the NPSS. A lot of them do. And then they wake up again like, oh shit, I'm in a dynasty league. and then they're worried about the now. Like, this is the time when people are shaping their teams, if they're paying any attention. Help them. help them in that if you can, and whatever it is that they're looking for, right? There's a lot of value to be gained just from being a good trade partner this time of year.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to do this one after. All right, let's talk about soup. John, how do you tend to season your soups? Do you season at the beginning as you cook the base? Do you season throughout as you add additional ingredients, or only at the end to taste?
I typically, man, I am the wrong person to ask this, but I have zero like this is all anecdotal backing here, but a lot of times it's like seasoning the ingredients before they go in.
Oh, okay. You're a pre-seasoner.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So here's what I like to do.
Are you a post-seasoner?
I'm a post-seasoner.
That's the way to do it. That's where trophies are won.
Well, they tend to be. I don't know in soup though.
Yeah.
I'm going to use a squash soup as an example because I just made one. I like to get some sort of browning or caramelization or sweetening of the things that I'm cooking. And so I'll cook them with high heat until they start to caramelize, right? So my onions, my squash, my carrots, my garlic, like I'll make sure it's got a little bit of color to it before I get going. And then I put it all in a pot, right? And then I just keep rolling in the pot. I'll put the heat up to like a medium high. And I'll start to get it to where it's like there's black bits, right? And then my aromatics go in. So things that are going to need, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes to really start to mix and release their flavors. And then my stock goes in, right? And so then I like to do a little bit of softening and blending. I'll do like a mashing with my squash and my onions and my carrots to get them like roughly mushed up, but not like smooth, you know, because you still want to have the individual profiles doing their own thing, but communicating a little bit more. And then towards the very end, that's when salt and pepper and that kind of stuff goes in to finish the taste, to bring your heat up as well, or to bring your sweetness if you need to. Definitely the saltiness. And then at the very end, it's my milk, my cream, my whatever dairy might go in. I like to do the top of the coconut milk at the very end. So I like to save it. I think that it adds a little something extra. I don't know if there's anything to that, but I like to keep the really thick bits of the coconut milk. That's how I season soups.
Wow, you've thought about this way more than I have. I'm just like, I just need something to eat. I don't know.
I've been cooking a lot more from scratch this year, John.
Nice. I like it.
So let's keep going on the soup question. Does your soup seasoning construction and process have any parallels with how you roster construct in a startup, John?
Okay. I like this.
This is from Jake. So Jake he's in the Listener League startup, and really like he pulls the curtain back. He says, I know you're orphan heavy, but would like to know how to best draft against you in 2026. So this was just a Trojan horse. This whole soup conversation was to get me excited to be describing my full process so that he can bring my guard down and then figure out how to beat me in this startup. So let's see if it works for you.
Sneaky. Because it does for me, I think, this is, I like to do a lot of the work up front. Like everybody knows, I'm not a big trader. I don't have a whole lot of faith in dynasty managers as traders, and so I don't necessarily. I prepare I build my rosters as if I'm never going to be able to make a trade, and like this is kind of what I'm doing with the soup too. It's all up front and. With the goal of once it's in the pot, we're done, and it gets to just kind of simmer. So, so yeah, I think that it does work for me. I'm sure that you've thought about this, like not just because of this question, but like while you're making the soup, like this is how your mind works. So I'm sure that like you've had this question queued up for like probably years. And have been waiting for this exact question.
This is my moment. Yeah, years of practice. I'm going to be honest, John, when I'm making soups sometimes, you've got all your bases, right? The overarching like flavor profiles that the big ingredients lend, but I don't always know what I want the final product to look like or to smell like or to taste like or what the texture should be. I let the soup tell me, and I know that sounds like bougie or whatever, but I think if you're willing to meet the ingredients where they are, you get something that's unique. I made Moroccan squash soup the other day. I've never made Moroccan food before. It was awesome.
Nice.
It was just telling me like, I want to be Moroccan. This pot of vegetables. And I think we should approach our drafts maybe not with like ambivalence, but with flexibility and an ability to pivot and to dive in different directions sharply. And I think that soup correlates really well to that. And so what you're doing at the beginning of the draft, it doesn't have to dictate what the end product looks like. So give yourself permission to pivot and to pivot quickly. And to say like, you know what? I thought this was one thing, but it's actually Moroccan. And that can be okay, right? Just have conviction when you make those edits and work on the path forward. I know that's really abstract. I'm thinking about the listener league that we're going to have. It has things like penalties for sacks and incompletions and, of course, interceptions. It's got a 0.5 point per target, right? So that's really interesting. And it's only half PPR. And so a reception is still worth 1 point, but a missed reception is worth 0.5 point, right? What does that do for the way that you want to construct wide receiver rooms? I think that it provides flexibility to adjust to how other people are interpreting that, right? What kind of soups are they making? What flavor profiles are they looking for? I think the person who's most willing to like be multicultural is going to have the most success in those types of drafts where there's a lot of variability.
I don't love it, but
I know.
I love it. And I think you know why, but I like that it's resulting in some very tasty soups for you.
I appreciate that. Let's go to Joseph Fry because I think this is a pretty good thread to pull on. Do you find yourself changing fantasy strategy as the NFL changes strategy? It seems like the league went to a lot of 3 wide receiver sets after McVay came into the league. Defenses went to quicker, smaller personnel to match up. Now it seems the league is moving to 2 and 3 tight end sets. As a fantasy manager, how do we adjust?
Like it depends on the trend, right? Like there's only so much we can do with the tight end position, kind of regardless. They could throw 11 of them out there and it still doesn't make any more of them viable than there are right now, right? Like it's still going to be Bowers, it's still going to be McBride, it's still going to be, Kittle and we think probably Fannin and some like the guys who are kind of in that elite tier or on their way to it are going to keep doing it. And the Nate Adkins and Adam Troutmans of the world, just to pick on my Broncos a little bit here, are still going to be just kind of mostly pointless, like even if they are on the field more. So
I like that.
Yeah, like I mean, I feel kind of the same way about wide receivers. Like you can throw 3 of them out there, but like, what are you doing in terms of tactical deployment? Are you actually calling all 3 numbers on in a given play call? Or are you just kind of trying to spread things out and soften things for your number 1? Like it depends so much on like, what are they actually doing with it? Is that actually actionable for us?
Yeah, I think, all right, there's 2 things going on at the same time, right? What the NFL does, that really matters. They're doing things, punches, counter punches, they come up with 3 wide receiver sets and an illusion of complexity through those 3 wide receiver sets, doing the same things they always were. There's just Cooper Kupp is a really good blocker, right? Like that's really what it came down to, is they got really good blocking wide receivers and they disguised a lot of what they were doing. Now they're doing the same thing with tight ends, right? And so the defenses are adjusting to that. And so like there's a cyclical nature of what the NFL is doing. But then there's also us, and it's us reacting to what they're doing. And I think that the way that we react is not fully aligned with the actuality of what the NFL is doing in their punches and counter punches. And so I think that gap, that delta between how we're reacting to the NFL and how the NFL is actually reacting, I think that's the edge. And so like you want to find that cutoff point, that atrophy point where, there were 45 wide receivers with 2 yards per route run 2 years ago. This year there were like 30. Okay, so that means we should probably be looking at wide receiver 28, right? Like right at the edge of atrophy. And we should be honing in on that. What is the valuation of that tier? It seems to be really, really low. And it seems like if you can get just a little bit lower and be more right than the market, if you can pick a few player names, you're going to really be kicking ass in your constructions this year. So that's what I think we should do with these types of trends is look at, yes, what the NFL is doing. I think a lot of smart people are doing that, but then zoom back and say like, well, what is the dynasty community doing about that? What is their reaction and where they may be being inefficient in their interpretation of that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. Is there anything else? Oh, here we go. Scott, I'm assuming Scott Connor is now pushing that only top wide receivers matter. Welcome to the club, Scott. You see a potential for the wide receiver 13 to 24 becoming a value along with a bounce backs from the statistics from what happens after a down year from wide receivers in general. If you take over a team, can't trade into the top wide receivers, how many wide receivers in this next range do you feel you need to acquire? What does the push and pull look like at the other positions? Great question. Any thoughts there, John?
I'm gonna let you start on this one.
Okay. If you can't trade today, it doesn't mean you can't trade tomorrow. I think we should start there. This sort of like cementing of the top guys as infallible is wrong to me. I mentioned this on a live stream the other day where you need 3 things to be an elite wide receiver. You need to be healthy all year. You need a ton of targets, and you probably need a high touchdown rate, right? We're not good at predicting health. We're not good at predicting touchdown rate. And so I think that if we just chase targets for the depressed wide receiver 7 or 8 through 18, I think we can probably find infinity stone potential there. Players who are going to stay healthy, it's sort of luck of the draw, and players who are going to have asymmetrical touchdown rates. I would be willing to put, let's just say it's like a start 3 wide receiver with 3 flexes beyond, right? I'd be willing, if nobody in the league seems to value that position, I'd be willing to lean in a little bit more this year than years past. Not because I think it's going to be any better or worse, but the market is valuing them less for the first time in since like 2017, 2018. Let's give that a shot. I think that we can actually start to get point scoring value in a way that is more accessible at the wide receiver position there. Especially if you look at recent ADP and say like, yeah, they're not giving much credence to this position right now besides those top guys.
Yeah, totally. As far as a number, in that wide receiver 2 range, do we have a sense of like how many guys typically elevate into, the like top 5-ish range from 12? Because like the old Peter Howard thing has always been that they really just kind of settle into a spot and just live there forever, basically.
Tough,
and it doesn't happen a lot, right? Like, I think that we probably got a couple this year. I would imagine that we get, probably 2 or 3 that move up like this, but this is just me guessing, and I'm wondering if you have actual data on this, but it feels like 2 to 3 is kind of the best you're going to get.
I don't have that in front of me. I should pull it. I do have ADP in front of me though. And this was the tier that I honed in on last time, because you look at like Amon-Ra, CD, Justin Jefferson, they're around like early to mid second in a startup draft. Then you got Drake London a few picks later. There's a huge gap all the way to pick 27 overall. Tet McMillan is wide receiver 9. Nico Collins, George Pickens, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Rashee Rice, Emeka Egbuka, Lad McConkey, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas. A bunch of names. There's a lot of targets within those names, though. Yeah. And I could really see some of those guys having really good touchdown luck. We've talked about Garrett Wilson a few times so far this NPSS, somebody who scored really well in the NB10 score. Nico Collins seems like somebody who's due for a Boone touchdown year, and getting a little bit more volume than he has the last couple. Really good wide receiver at like 3 yards per route run several seasons. George Pickens just showed his work, man. He was really good this year. So did Chris Olave. Rashee Rice is a knucklehead, but he's a really good football player when he's on the field. And Emeka Egbuka was everyone's chosen son for the first half of the season. I don't know who is going to elevate, but there's a lot of really strong candidates there. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. It's just like the tough part with this has always been in order for some of these guys to elevate into the range that we're looking for, who drops out? Like that's the other tough part, you know? Sure. And so like I think that we have to kind of do the math on both sides of that. Like where's the room for them to make it there? That's the part that just makes it, to me, kind of not even worth chasing, to be totally honest. Like I'm in on those guys, but you know, I'm in on them as wide receiver 2s. And you know, like I'm probably going to predict at least, you know, like I said, 2 or 3 could potentially elevate, but like more than anything, I'm in on Garrett Wilson because I think that he could be a high-end wide receiver 2 and a very good complement to, you know, my Amon-Ra St. Brown wide receiver 1. And then, you know, if he does elevate the way I think that he could, then, you know, huge bonus. But I just don't know if there's really much of a process to being able to count on them as a wide receiver 1.
That's fair. And you look at like, do I want to draft Tet McMillan in the 3rd round? Or am I comfortable with Devontae Adams in like, I don't know, like the 12th?
Right.
13th round? I can get a lot of these guys that have done it for a while and probably have another good year or 2 in them. And so I think that's why I was proposing going all the way down to like the Terry McLaurin range. Are you going to hold serve? Maybe not. Probably not. I just think there's a lot more like opportunity at the top in the other positions.
Yeah, that's probably true too.
Yeah. All right. You want to do one more and then get out of here?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. What type of advantages do you all see for long-term dynasty players as it becomes more mainstream? What changes, if any, have you noticed over the past few years? Great question, man.
Yeah. Like there's kind of, I've got kind of a few of them, you know. My favorite being the pendulum that we always talk about, the swings between running back and wide receiver. You know, for newer dynasty managers, they're coming in feeling like running back is just always going to be stocked and wide receiver is always going to be scarce. And, you know, they're probably going to draft kind of accordingly. And, you know, they're going to be successful for a while, but I think they're going to cling to that once the pendulum swings back the other way. So like, I've always felt like that's a little bit of an advantage, having that experience, seeing it swinging back and forth and seeing that, you know, there's going to be a time and a place where running back is really kind of the value play because it's really hard to find, you know, startable weekly viable running backs, you know, like at least to start the season. So, you know, I think that seeing just kind of the like in that same vein, you know, the wide receiver or the running back wave attack, kind of seeing the way the running back position behaves throughout the season, you know, seeing the way, you know, anyone on a 2 deep at quarterback can work, because you do get to a point where, you know, your quarterbacks start getting hurt and the backups start to elevate and they all have kind of the same opportunity. And once they get that opportunity, they have the same basic floor and the same basic ceiling as seriously any other quarterback, essentially. So, you know, things like that, I think, just kind of seeing them in action, the whole key is you have to actually recognize them and you have to actually acknowledge them. and Pop Dynasty doesn't like to do that. So I don't know how much of an advantage that most Dynasty players are going to have, but there are advantages out there available to them.
And good strategies take years to develop. Like when I started, I invested heavily in like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase right off the bat when, they were considered very good, but they were still somewhat accessible. And I got into a bunch of quarterbacks. Like I fixed those two spaces pretty quickly. And last year was just like such a gift at running back. Like I look at my rosters this NPSS and I'm like, God, I have 50-60% rostership at running back alone. And I love them all. They're like my children. I feel like the 101 Dalmatians dad. And it's like, wow, I'm so grateful that I first fixed these other positions. And then I created so much room for these running backs. I'm glad that I took your advice last year and I got into Trey McBride. And like, I still have the conviction on Brock Bowers, and Kittle used to be my guy. And so I had a bunch of him this year, and I traded off of him to get into Kyle Pitts. And it's like you make these moves, you find conviction based on like data-driven reasons, or you follow the right people who give you the advice with their own process. And those results compound over years, and you make realizations of like, okay, these strategies, not just contending windows, but these strategies take time to season on their own. Right? They need their own aromatics for a while.
Right.
And the other thing that I learned is like depth is not a secret handshake. It's one that we all know. And it's one that we pretend that we need to be practicing right now. It's not necessary. Right. Like we can always get depth at any point. Right. And so if your 60% rostership of running backs is not helping you, you can just go get Tony Pollard or Jalen Moore. And like, it's not that hard, right? You don't have to have solutions today. And I think that it took me a while to get more comfortable with that concept. And I'm grateful to you and other really bright people for teaching me that, because right now, like it's easy to say, man, my wide receivers are really lean. Yeah. Okay. They are. But if I lose Justin Jefferson, I'll just go trade 2 firsts for another elite guy. Like these moments are available. It's just about which one is available at that time. If you don't pick favorites, if you just go hunting in the right ways and you store up enough draft capital, enough flexibility, you can really buy whatever you want whenever that moment strikes, Yeah.
Man, it's hard to think of a better way to end the live stream than that. That's kind of the bow on top of the package right there. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up for the week. Thank you all for the questions, both in the Discord and in the live chat. Always such a pleasure to be able to hear what's on your mind, Super Friends, just because, I mean, I say it all the time. This is the most thoughtful, most strategic listener base in all of the, in this entire industry. And to have the opportunity to involve you in the conversation is always the goal for us. So thank you for joining. Thank you for the questions. Let's wrap it up for the weekend. As we do that, ask you for a quick favor. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also subscribe, by the way, to the DLF family of podcasts mega feed, get access to all the great podcasts from dynastyleaguefootball.com, but particularly the Super Show. Once you've subscribed, if you would rate and review, helps us to get out to more people, involve more people in the conversation. That's where these great questions come from, involving more Super Friends, and more opportunity for a question that's on your mind to come out on an episode. So be a huge favor to us. In that same vein, join the Discord. Link is in the show notes. Constant conversations, constant strategy, constant news. Shout out to Jay for his for keeping us up to date and keeping us informed on the Discord. Man, we have just a ton of things to talk about and a ton of different ways to talk about it. So join the Discord. Link is in the show notes. You can get at us on other social media, both on Blue Sky. I'm at Superflex Dude. He's at FF Tommy B. But honestly, most of our content ends up on the Discord. So get at us there. This episode was dedicated in loving memory to James the Brain Catullus. Thank you to dynastyleaguefootball.com for the platform. Thank you to Heart and Soul Radio for the music. And above all else, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for being our super friends. And until next week, stay sexy and super flexy.